awakened us from our ancient slumber. You will die!
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And today is the season premiere of season 2 of Spooky Tuesday. Wow, fanfare. Fanfare, cue the fanfare.
Spooky
oh my God.
Tuesday. Spooky season Tuesday.
Season 2.
We were
Sharky
gone
2 weeks.
We were gone for so long, an incredible amount of time. I miss y'all so much. It was
What did you guys do last week? Like, were you okay?
I would honestly say, did you miss us? But if all goes to plan, we will absolutely be spamming you with us on social. So you won't have the chance, really, frankly.
But still, you're like, what's my direction for the week? Spooky Tuesday sets the vibe with their movie pick. I know. Well, we're back. Don't worry. And we're going to keep doing episodes through 100 or something crazy. But this week, we're starting off. It's spooky season. Okay, it's official. It's October now. So we're starting off with one of the ultimate classics of the spooky genre, and that is 1981, The Evil Dead. And this movie is, wow. I hadn't seen it in like 2 years, and like, wow, it's something else. Also, I'm sure that this is the only NC-17 movie we've done on the pod so far, which is fun. And when I saw that, like, I looked it up briefly before I watched it again, and I was like, I don't remember it being so bad. And then I watched it, and I was like, ta-ha-ha, well,
Ooh.
I forgot a lot. But anyway, if you haven't seen The Evil Dead, stop your life, go watch it. It's a classic. You have to watch it. But here is the IMDb synopsis for you. 5 friends travel to a cabin in the woods where they unknowingly release flesh-possessing demons. That's pretty spot on.
Honestly. And my favorite part about this movie, one, this movie gives me everything that I want out of a horror movie. Literally everything. Well, except for one thing, but that's another story.
We'll get there.
But this movie just straight up tells you what it is in the first like 5 minutes. It like tells you exactly what it's going to be. And even though it literally tells you, you are not prepared for this movie.
Absolutely not. Like, Chelsea, were you prepared for this movie? As a first-time viewer?
Here's the thing. I think I mentioned on our little mini-sode last week when we introduced this film that I was like, I have some baseline knowledge because of my Jane Levy phase. She was in the remake. That said, as I was watching this movie, I kept being like, so which one of them is Mia? Because I know that Jane Levy played a character named Mia. It's not that kind of reboot. They gave new characters in the reboot. So it turns out I was less prepared than I thought. But I have seen Cabin in the Woods. And so I was not completely wholly unprepared. You know what I mean? Like once I saw what was happening, I was like, oh, a clear reference, but in reverse. Because to be clear, Cabin in the Woods is referencing The Evil Dead. Yeah. That one I'm not even going to joke about because that whole movie is a reference, a clear reference. So I'm not even going to pretend. But it did help put things in place for me in a way that gave me some structure to my viewing. You know what I mean? Even though I didn't know anybody's name for a very long time. And then I started to collect names. And then I still was like, who's Mia? Once we had Cheryl and Linda. And then it was like, oh, the other one is Shelly. But I have everybody's names now. I have rough ideas of how they all go together on some level, not completely. And I would like to discuss that at some point. But did you guys know?
Doesn't tell.
Yeah. Cheryl says at one moment, there's like one quote after she's fully zombied where she's like, it's your sister, Cheryl. And I was like, is that his sister?
I was like, and we're dropping some hot new information. Like 45, 50 minutes into the film right now. I was like, I had no idea because I was confused. It's like 2 couples, right? And then another woman who's single. And of course they they pick on the single lady. They pick on Cheryl, poor Cheryl. But we've got Ashley Ash, my one true love. I almost, because I'm wearing a jean shirt to look like him. And I was putting on my makeup with Sydney before the episode started, and I accidentally almost gave myself an unibrow. And I almost kept it to be the theme because he's got a lovely, lovely unibrow in this. And he rocks it.
I told her she should have.
I tell you,
I should have.
from high school theater experience, everybody loves a girl with a unibrow.
Yeah.
It's true.
Okay, well maybe I'll do a mid episode break and I'll put the unibrow on. It would take me seconds. So Ash is there with Linda, right? That's his girlfriend?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes,
then
Ash and Linda, Scott and Shelly,
yeah.
and Cheryl is the fifth wheel.
Who's maybe his sister, I guess, unless.
But it's his sister, and that would make a lot more sense. I mean, not that they weren't all friends with her.
But they weren't
like-
all friends with her because Scott was, as soon as she started freaking out, Scott started being like, she's such a baby. She always does this. She acts like she's 3 years old. And it was like, okay, Scott does not like her. Although Scott, obviously a hater. You know what I mean? Not sure he likes
Total
anybody.
hater.
Prepared to turn his back on literally everybody so fast. But he really didn't like Cheryl. Cheryl really didn't like him. I almost was like, how did they, if we had known that she was his sister, I think it would have made more sense from the beginning. But also, he does not act
It's
like
not
she's his
about
sister
that.
at any point. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, this movie isn't about the people, except it's about Ash. It's about how bonkers it is.
Sure.
Like, you don't know a damn thing about any of these fucking people, and you're like, that's fine. I don't really need to care about them. I'm just like holding onto my seat for dear life because it's just shocker after shocker of all of this absolutely preposterous shit. And I hadn't read about like the whole backstory of this movie
Oh my
before.
God.
And it was awesome. It was such a fun read, like learning about how this worked. Like the fact that, okay, so Sam Raimi, the director, and Bruce Campbell are like best friends forever. And they like were itty bitty baby bean boys when they put this movie together. Sam was 20. It's mentioned that Sam was 20 like 40 times. I imagine Bruce was around 20 as well. And they literally like grassroots put this movie together. It was like ramshackle. They ran out of money several times during the shoot and had to stop production. And like I read some article that's like they had some quote that was like they had to like cut their hair, put on their business suits and start knocking on doors to collect money or something like that. I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, I didn't know that it was such a, like, you can tell that it's low budget, but
that's what makes it so good.
Right?
Like I think that for me, like, so Evil Dead 2, and Evil Dead 2 has almost the exact same plot of Evil Dead 1.
They said, did
But
you like The Evil Dead? We'll give you exactly that same thing again.
it
You're
is literally
welcome.
the exact same movie. It's
But-
like they just recast the other characters.
and
I
made
was
them slightly
so-
different.
Yes.
But
I was so confused when I watched
can-
Evil Dead 2.
but you can, like, a lot of people prefer Evil Dead 2 and 3 over the original one, and I might have a controversial hot take. I love the first one way more. Like, the second one is wittier and the humor kind of comes through more, and
Yeah.
it also has a lot of bonkers gore and horror. But the fact that the first one was so low budget is why I love it so much more than the second one, which is the exact same, but with more money and more, I don't know, like, it's, the first one is charming and like in just absolutely perfection. It's so good.
Right. It's so good, and they did so much with like no money at all. Like they had all those cool spooky shots throughout, right? Where like it's the camera is the demon like skating through the woods, being
Just,
all
like,
spooky like.
Being
And
fast
that
as
was-
fuck boy.
Yeah. spooky fast demon. And like there's one point where it like goes over a pond, and like to shoot that, it was Sam Raimi like on his belly holding the camera on a dinghy, and Bruce Campbell was like pushing the dinghy really fast across the pond. There's this other I had this other quote where they were trying to create the effect of like a low mode steady cam, so which was popularized by Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. And they simulated that by having two operators run alongside the camera along the side of a 2x4 on which the camera had been mounted. So they were just holding on to this 2x4 to try to keep it steady enough so it would look like it was a steady cam as a camera on a piece of wood slid down another piece of wood that they just lubed up with Vaseline. Like that's how they did the shots.
And
I love that.
if IMDb is not lying, those two camera operators were Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell themselves. And Bruce Campbell is Ash. So it was literally the director and his BFF, the star. And like so many times in IMDb, it was like they finished production. Everybody else went home. They realized actually they needed to do stuff. So Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell just did it themselves, DIY style, the best that they could. Like everything on this movie was so absolutely jerry-rigged together. That final spooky shot at the end with the demon again, where the camera is kind of just like skating over the ground. Apparently that one, if IMDb is to be believed, was they put the camera on a tripod and then they mounted the tripod on a motorcycle and then they drove the motorcycle through a forest and then they literally crashed it into him. And he broke several ribs apparently. And there are, again, just like Alien, our grandiose finale, the workplace conditions are questionable on this film.
Oh, totally.
But also wowie.
Okay, well, I read all these fun articles, and we'll link them all in our references and our show notes. But there was one that said that they started a rumor about apparently they spread a rumor that Bruce Campbell broke his jaw when Sam Raimi accidentally slammed his camera into Campbell's face while filming one of the final shots. But actually that was just a lie. They said that the lie that we put out was that the final shot where the evil entity comes racing through the cabin and crashes into my face. This is Bruce Campbell talking. The big lie is that Raimi rode a motorcycle through all the doors and he just had to hit me. I was willing to do it as long as we got the shot. Took it for the team, but no broken jaw. So they just said that he broke the jaw to make it seem like he like left his life on the cutting room floor, that kind of shit. Like I feel like,
are they just making up lies?
They're just they lied. They lied about the broken jaw just to make it seem like they're even more epic than they were. And I was like, babes, you already are really epic. You don't have to lie. Like, this is incredible.
Yeah, because there's another IMDb trivia piece that's like a cameraman slipped during filming, smashing his camera into Bruce Campbell's face and knocking out several of the actor's teeth. So now we have a claim that a camera smashed his face and knocked out his teeth. We have the lie that the motorcycle drove into him and broke his ribs. We have the lie that the motorcycle drove into him and broke his jaw. What's going on here? There's a lot of
fucking lore about this movie because the circumstances for the production were so fucking hilarious. Like, for example, the house, like they were at like an actual abandoned cabin. And there's actually a really cool spooky story about the cabin. Hold on, let me see if I can find it in my notes. It was amazing. Hold on.
I love that. Okay. So they're all from Michigan. But they filmed it in Tennessee because they were like, it's going to be too cold to film in Michigan. Let's go south. And then it ended up being the most brutal winter in Tennessee. And it was so cold. And it was like a very mild winter in Michigan.
It's so funny. Like, so much. It was so cold and they all just like lived in that tiny cabin. Like the whole cast was just in that cabin, which was like a cabin that had nothing, you know, it had like, maybe it had electricity, but like it just had the fire. Yeah. No plumbing. They all didn't shower for weeks.
I don't believe any of this anymore, though, with all of these lies out here.
I read other articles that aren't IMDb trivia, and I found the same things in some of them. But like, so there's like some source material with like quotes from them, so we can pretend maybe.
But you just said that the motorcycle thing was a lie that came directly from Bruce Campbell's mouth. So these hoes out here making shit up. That is very fun shit. I will absolutely buy into it. You know what I mean? I love a lie. I love a liar. But I just don't know who to trust anymore.
There's no way to really know, but
Sure.
they did tell this really fun story. I think this is a quote from Sam. Oh yeah, it is. It's from Sam. And it's about the cabin that they chose to film the film, to shoot the film. And this is what he said. One night during a thunderstorm, this little girl, okay, sorry. Let me go back.
Okay.
This is the lore about the cabin. So this is like a story they were told about the cabin that they were in. So this is the story. One night during a thunderstorm, this little girl woke up and was scared of the lightning happening around the cabin. She ran into her mother's room and pulling back the covers, climbing into bed with her, she found that her mother was dead. She was so frightened, she ran into her grandmother's room, and somehow that same evening, she had died also. The little girl, this fucked up. It's fucked up. The little girl ran into the storm to this farmhouse and the family that was living there, and they found her screaming and banging on the doors. The farm family took care of her after that, and no one lived in the cabin since. The little girl, who's now an old woman during the thunderstorms after that, would often be found wandering around the woods, which is so fucking spooky. And he totally could have pulled that out of his ass, but like he's good at spooky shit, so I don't care. I love it. I love a scary story.
You know how I feel about the woods. You know how I feel about the woods.
Well, it gets worse. So apparently there was that's the story they had heard before they got there. But then Sam goes on to say, as we were shooting the film, this fella from the farmhouse that took in the little girl was looking for the now old woman, saying that because there was a thunderstorm the night before, he was out looking for the woman because it was possible she had returned to the cabin. And then he says, as far as we know, they never found her. I was like, Sam.
He loves to sit around a campfire and just get creative. And I love that for him. And I absolutely don't trust a word out of his mouth.
Oh, yeah. No, there's no fucking trust at all. But yeah. And also another thing that was so crazy just about the production of this movie is that Joel Cohen was the assistant director.
Oh, he was like the
editor,
editing producer's assistant or something like that.
Yeah,
Coen brothers got roped into this.
Yeah, that's Joel as of Ethan and Joel, the Coen brothers. Like that's fucking insane. So this was like launched people. This was all genre defining. Look at all these genre defining things that we did. Wow. And
the Midwest boys.
I know. We ended the season with a genre-defining science fiction flick, and now we're starting season 2 with the blueprint for the cabin in the woods.
Also, really off subject, but it's just so funny. I can't believe the fact that the man that brought us this, the most perfect horror movie ever made, also did the Spider-Man movies.
I knew that's what you were gonna say.
Which ones?
The Tobey Maguire 1, 2, and 3.
And IMDb literally was like, this movie had a $350,000 budget. Spider-Man 3, at the time, the biggest budget there ever was, $350 million. Like literally in IMDb, they were like, don't forget that the movie where Tobey Maguire performs a song and dance as Spider-Man, but not in costume as Spider-Man, just as regular Peter Parker, but dark Peter Parker. Yeah, goth Peter Parker.
No.
That's the same man who's bringing you this movie.
That scans. Are you kidding me? How does that not make so much sense? Of course, now that I know that, because I was like, oh, I know Sam Raimi does tons of shit now, and I meant to Google it before, but I forgot to look it up. This makes so much sense. You watch the first 2 Spider-Mans, and you're like, this doesn't make sense because there hasn't been something as hilarious as the dancing down the street emo Tobey Maguire scene. And then he comes in with the final film and he's like, don't worry, here it is. Here's the comedy you were looking for.
Honestly, the escalation of the first Spider-Man to Spider-Man 3 is very similar here as the first Evil Dead to the Evil Dead franchise.
Okay, because
I assume. I haven't seen any of the others. But I
you're fucking right.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We've got Evil Dead 1. Campy, cute, DIY, whatever. We got Evil Dead 2. The same movie again, higher budget, wittier jokes, more put together. Also great though. Still great. Evil Dead 3 is bananas. And I like started watching it and then I just wasn't in the right spot for it. But it's literally a time travel movie. Yes.
When you say literally, you mean the dictionary definition.
Medieval sharks, remember that?
Uh-huh.
From 47 Meters Down Uncaged.
So every episode is a shark movie episode now?
No, but like I went to Medieval Sharks because I was thinking about the third Evil Dead movie. What is that one called? It has a crazy name too. The Evil Dead 3.
Army of Darkness.
The Army of Darkness.
Wow. Wowee.
Army of Darkness. Oh man. Okay, I'm watching that this spooky season.
Okay. Also, I have a couple crossovers for the Evil Dead.
Okay.
One. The car in this movie
yep.
is Sam Raimi's dad's car.
Oh yeah.
And it's also in multiple other Sam Raimi movies. Like it's in the first two Spider-Man one, it's Uncle Ben's car. Like he put it in, I think, multiple other of his movies.
I have a little list here if you'd like.
It lasted all the way till Spider-Man. This came out in 81.
I mean, do we know that it was actually driving at any point in those movies? Or was it the kind of thing where we see it stationary and then they're like towing it for filming a driving scene? You know what I mean? Maybe it's absolutely not functional, but also,
or, he has money and can afford to.
That was going to be my other point.
That's the answer. He has $350 million for the budget of Spider-Man 3.
But per IMDb, over his years as a director, Raimi's 1973 Oldsmobile Delta 88, originally bought by Raimi's father for the family when Sam was 14, has, quote, played Ash's car in the Evil Dead movies, Uncle Ben and Aunt May's car in the Spider-Man movies, Annie's car in The Gift, and Mrs. Ganache's car in Drag Me to Hell, and has made cameos in nearly all of his other movies. So it's had a starring role in like 4 different franchises.
He did Drag Me to Hell? Like the one with Justin Long?
Mm-hmm. I assume the 2009 one. Are there more? I've been
wanting to see that so bad. I made a joke about being dragged to hell just the other day, and then I was like, I have no right to make this joke without having seen the film. And I love Justin Long, so yeah.
Honestly though, I do a little bit feel perhaps on some point we'll get back on track. I do a little bit feel like the production of this movie and all of the behind the scenes stuff is so interesting that this is almost going to be like a Blair Witch style episode where we just talk about the making of the movie 75% and then the movie 25%. You know what I mean?
I've got a lot to say about the actual movie, but I've got like 5 more things to say about the production too.
And I still have another like faux canon crossover event that is wild.
What is it?
Mind-blowingly wild.
Fuck,
okay,
I'm not ready.
So in 1993, there was another Jason Voorhees movie called Jason Goes to Hell, and in one of the scenes, you can like one of the characters discovers like a really large ornate knife and a really fucked up book, and a lot of people notice that it looks like the Kandarian dagger, right? That's what they're called, the Kandarian demons. It looks like the dagger in Evil Dead and the book. And so the director of Jason Goes to Hell basically said that Miss Voorhees read this book to bring her son back, and that's why Jason isn't Jason. Jason is a Deadite, and that's why he is like unstoppable.
Oh,
that's why he's a ghombie. I didn't know this movie was full of gombies. And it also makes sense why he comes back as a full ass grown adult man when he died when he was 9
instead of like a little boy.
Yeah. Wow.
And I was like,
love that.
I was like, I can fuck with that. I love to know the fact that like Jason Voorhees and Ash live in the same universe.
Yeah.
Like I fuck with that so hard.
I will now consider watching any of the other Jason movies. Before I was just like, this shit don't make no sense. But you know what? Why? I never want it to make sense. So
Here's what I would
I'm
like.
gonna watch them.
I would like you know how there's Freddy versus Jason, Ash versus the Evil Dead, blah blah blah, all that stuff. I would like Ash versus Jason underwater, I think.
Ooh.
Everything's
Yes.
a shark movie. Gombies, I believe, possibly don't need oxygen, is my assumption. He does go to space. I don't know if he's ever outside in the space or if he's in the ship. But I feel like it would be possible. You know what I mean? And also, again, everything is a shark movie, so it just feels like that would be a really great combo, and that would be really genre defying. You know what I mean? But also bring a lot of good things together. And if we can just willy-nilly decide for ourselves, and we can, that things exist in the same universe, I don't see why not this one. I don't see why not 47 meters down, Ash vs. Jason.
I love it.
I would watch it. And I bet Bruce Campbell would do it.
Let me write that spec script. Let me email Sam Raimi.
We can bring in the medieval sharks. My brilliant idea. Okay.
This is actually the spiritual sequel to The Evil Dead 3, whatever you just called it.
Army of Darkness.
Yes, taking the time travel, taking the adventuring into new lands, taking little bits and pieces from all over. Maybe Pamela makes her return. You know, if we have time travel, I don't see why we can't absolutely put all of these elements together.
I don't understand why we can't have it all.
I want it all. I want it all.
I want it all.
The
I
only-
want it now. Chelsea, start writing.
Do you hear me typing?
Yes.
Keyboard clackles violently.
But yeah, I mean, the only thing that couldn't be included in the crossover is The Hills Have Eyes, since canonically this movie exists in a universe where The Hills Have Eyes was already a movie, at least the 70s version, or whenever 70s,
The original.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
The
Because-
Wes Craven one.
Yeah, and I
It's a
think
time
we
travel
talked-
movie, and it had the poster for the 2000s one. Can you imagine? Oh,
It's actually also an alternate universe movie, like Happy Death Day 2. We are now bringing that into this universe.
it's getting deep.
Yeah. And I, like I said in our mini-sode, that's one of my favesies. So you best believe that's one of my inspirations for this sure to be Oscar-winning film.
Mhm. I think it's gonna go really well.
There's some real
And
good
if
stuff
you
here.
need- If you're also gonna be directing, I will happily push you around in a dinghy boat while you hold the
Aw,
camera.
Girl,
I can go really fast, so
Really,
we'll get
girl.
the good shot.
love it.
Okay, so if we're gonna go into the actual film soon, before we do that, I just want to bring up one thing that I thought was so awesome. And it's that Stephen King was actually a huge part of everything that happened with this movie. He's like part of the reason that it actually got the hype that it got and actually got put into not production. It was already produced. It was already created, put into distribution, I think. So they somehow got the movie to be screened at Cannes. We figured this out that one other episode at Cannes in 1982. And Stephen King happened to be in the audience. And he apparently was gleefully cheering in the theater throughout the movie screening. And then Sam Raimi had like wanted him to like have a little soundbite or something about if he liked it or not, but instead he wrote like a full review, and here's a quote from it. Stephen King said, "The Evil Dead has a simple, stupid power of a good campfire story, but its simplicity is not a side effect. It is something carefully crafted by Raimi, who is anything but stupid, who is so full of talent that anybody unable to get it together might be tempted to wonder if gobbling the man's fingernails could possibly do any good." Yeah.
What a visual.
What a thing. Look at that.
Gobbling the man's fingernails.
He's known to throw down an analogy or two in his books. Okay, I've now read 2 of them.
I don't like that, but I do respect it.
Yeah, totally. And then he also later on, Sam Raimi was trying to make the second one, and he was having a hard time getting someone to like pick it up and be the producer. And Stephen King heard that, and he was able to convince the producer that he was working with at that time to step in, and then that's how the second movie got made.
Wow.
I love that.
Stephen King, he's our hero.
Okay,
He brings
now
us good things.
I do want to actually talk about the film, and I want to start by asking you a very important question, which is what would your reaction be if you went away for a little weekend with your boo? You went away for a little weekend with your boo, maybe some other people, but your boo, a little romantic moment. They give you a gift, you open it, it's a monocle.
I would be thrilled because I have that exact necklace.
You have a monocle?
I do.
And do you use it?
Of course.
I have it. It's like a magnifying glass, not a monocle.
What's the difference?
I bought it in Las Vegas from the Marc Jacobs store because it was the cheapest thing they sold at the Marc Jacobs store, and I wanted to be fancy.
Sure.
And it was when I was in 8th grade. So eighth grade Monica has the same taste as 20-year-old Ash from The Evil Dead. But it's a cute necklace. I'm going to find it. I'm going to look for it right
Okay,
now. I know
one.
where it is.
Would never be me, because you know how I feel about the woods. My boo, like, they'd be like, let's just go to this cabin that we've never seen in the middle of Tennessee in the early 80s. As somebody who is like from the deep South, like if you are not from here, like you have no business being here.
Honestly,
like in
the woods in particular, you know what I mean?
That's
like
what I'm
if
saying,
you want to
like,
go to
in
a
this
big
setting,
city, whatever.
No, in that setting, like you'll get lost, which the crew actually did get lost a couple times, like trying to get to places. I was like, yeah, no shit, you're not from here.
Look, I'll tell you, my family has a cabin in Wyoming that like my great grandfather built or whatever. I was in Wyoming recently. I was like, oh, let me just drive past it on my route. Didn't recognize a single street I was supposed to pull off on to find it. I've never driven there before, but I've been driven there approximately, I don't know, how old am I? Almost 30. I've probably been driven there 20 times minimum. Did not recognize it to save my life. You know what I mean? Familiar with the area. I was definitely on the right street, coming from the opposite direction, was on the lookout, couldn't find it. You could not send me into the woods in Tennessee, especially without GPS, and expect me to find shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's already, you're in a recipe for trouble. You're already in a horror movie just driving to that cabin in an unfamiliar locale.
And then you know the story already that girl's, both of her mom and her grandma fucking died in that house. Like, you're gonna really go there? And then there's all this like IMDb trivia that was like, one was like, after the filming, they made a time capsule and they put it in the fireplace. I was like, that's cute. And then the next one was like, and the whole cabin burnt to the ground and only the fireplace stands today. And that part's true. I don't know about the time capsule, but it just seems like it was cursed land, probably.
IMDb trivia says that Sam Raimi burned it down himself. And so I don't.
Another law.
Yeah, again, do I believe him? No longer sure. I sure did before we started recording, and now absolutely not. But the idea of it alone is fascinating and terrifying. But for the characters, even, you know what I mean? They're not familiar with the area either. And then they drive across a bridge, support beams immediately fall into the water below. How do you not abandon your plan entirely, hitchhike back into town?
They're like, oh, only part of it fell down. It's fine. They're young college kids. They're like, I want to party. But also, like, it doesn't seem like they brought very many supplies.
They were heading for trouble no matter what, frankly, is the takeaway. Oh my God. She's got her monocle.
I found it.
I know that you're saying it's a magnifying glass. And I know that per Google, a magnifying glass is different than the corrective lens of a monocle. But frankly, not to me.
Wow.
Mommy
that.
Cole. Oh my
Wow.
God.
Yeah. So after I watched this movie for the first time, I was like, I am going to be Linda and Adam is going to be Ash for Halloween. And you know what? I think it might go down this year. I think that might be what we do.
Are you
Because
gonna
now that I
do
found this,
Ghombie Linda, or are you gonna do Nice Girl Linda?
Ghombie.
Gotta be.
Her hair's cuter when she's Ghombie, and then I could do that spooky ass makeup. Are you kidding
Her
me?
like
The
weird
doll
creepy
makeup.
baby doll. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
those
love that.
eyebrows are so scary. I'm gonna have to like delete my eyebrows and then draw them on again, but I'm willing to do it.
Okay.
I'm willing.
Something about that that I want to appreciate, share some appreciation for. And again, no structure to this episode. Sorry if you thought there might be. What we love to give you is a little surprise each time. You never know what you're getting.
Season 2,
Wow.
even less structure than before.
Even more chaotic. But so we get our first Gombi and Cheryl, obviously. And for the most part, she stays a Gombi the whole time.
Yeah.
But
also, can I just say really quickly before we move on from that? I would immediately tell you guys if my hand got possessed and I drew a scary book. I would tell you.
Oh,
I
would
wouldn't
be
leave
like,
that out.
I'd
Did
be like,
she
guys, we
wait?
gotta get the fuck out of these woods.
I'd start screaming at the top of my lungs, my hand is moving without
did she draw a
without
book?
me controlling it.
Or did she
Yeah,
draw the
she drew
trap
the-
door?
She drew the face of the book.
Oh, I thought
face
she
on the
drew
book,
the
'cause the
trap door
book-
because then it like lowered and the trap door was right there. And I was like, oh,
Because yeah, it's like shaped like that, but it has like eyes and
Okay.
like the nose and like
Alright.
the weird mouth, and then the face of the Book of the Dead.
wow.
Well, the cover of the Book of the Dead is a human skin face.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Stunning.
Lovely. We love a leather bound book.
But yeah, when she gets Gombied, and then at some point, not long after, Shelly also gets Gombied. And then when Shelly gets hacked to death, I kind of thought that it would be cool if after Shelly got hacked, that her body would turn back into normal Shelly. And then they would be left to be like, did we actually kill a Gombi? Did we kill our friend? Like, what happened? But we didn't get that. And then just a few minutes later, Linda was like, oh, you wanted that? Let me deliver that to you exactly. I'm going to become normal Linda after getting Gombified. Because Shelly's whole thing when she was getting dismembered, because the Book of the Dead told them, or the recording told them, you have to dismember your wife, which... Did he try anything else before that? I wonder. Maybe he went right to dismember your wife. Who knows? Because it certainly seems in the end of the movie some other things happened here. But so Shelly gets hacked, and as Shelly is getting her body parts chopped off, she's like, "Are you really gonna kill the woman you love?" To Scott, which, like, first of all, don't try to play that with
Rude.
Scott, because Scott absolutely is
Scott-
prepared to kill the woman he loves, even if she's not a Gombi.
Scott is stone cold.
Yeah, here's the thing.
Seriously, no love, no trust with Scott. Bye.
Yeah, but I loved that. I was like, oh, that would have been a cool thing to do. And then the movie was like, do you know what's a cool thing to do? Exactly what you just said. And I thought it was used really effectively in that moment for Linda to be like, oh no, help me. And I kind of wondered if the Gombi truly left her for that moment, and it was really Linda coming forward and being like, what's going on? Finally, she's back in the driver's seat of her body, or if it was just the Gombi playing games. Do you have thoughts on that?
I think it was games.
Yeah.
I like to think that it was like a whole manipulative thing.
A little clear reference to the autopsy of Jane Doe.
Precisely. I love a mind game because it was like exactly when he was about to kill her, right? So
it was before that, I think. Because she was just
Oh.
like sitting off. I don't know why. They had just been like, Linda's fine just sitting over there for some reason. She's just giggling her little head off. No big deal, you know. But it was gosh, I just thought it was, because that's also the scene Cheryl turns back into normal Cheryl at one point and is like, let me out. Like, are you gonna leave me here to die? And gosh, I
I'm
just
your sister.
right. Because okay, I was having the thought that obviously Scott gets gombied at some point too, but before that happened, I was like, all of the women have been gombied. The original Dr. Academe, or I don't remember if he had a name, but the original guy on the recording who brought the what did you call it?
Book of the Dead.
Who was exploring the Kandorian ruins and found the volume of ancient Sumerian burial practices and funerary incantations. He's also a man, and it was his wife who got gombied. And so I was almost like, is this a lady thing? And
That's what I was thinking too.
Right. And then I was like, I wonder if that's because would it be harder for a man to kill a lady, and so they think like they're playing on like, you wouldn't hurt me, you love me, and I'm just a defenseless little lady. But then Scott got gombied, and so I was like, well, maybe not. But I was wondering that, you know what I mean? Like they keep being like, I'm your girlfriend, could you really kill me? And then both of them are, well, Scott's like, yeah, no question, and then Ash is like, some questions. He really only does it when it gets down to it. You know what I mean? Because there is that whole scene where he chains her up and is about to chainsaw her, and then he just can't do it out of the love in his heart.
He loves
her. And they leave Gumby Cheryl just like banging at the trap door for, I don't know, an hour and 15 minutes before finally she escapes, and then they actually have to deal with her. But would the girls, do you think, if the positions had been switched, would they have been able to kill the men? Would they have killed the men? Would they have tried to wait longer? Like, I thought that's what the movie was playing on at first, until Scott also got gombied.
I feel like they could have done it.
I would have immediately tried. I would have been like, you know what? I don't even care. Like, you pissed.
I'm like, it's gone now.
That was a thought that I
me
had
off last week.
Yeah, it was like, if it was Scott, if Scott was the first Gombi, he would have been murdered immediately because Cheryl would not have waited. Cheryl at least would have been like, no chances. First of all, she was already like, something spooky is afoot. And second of all, she was already like, Scott sucks and I hate him with my whole being. So she would have dismembered that bitch as soon as she heard it on the recording. You know what I mean? But I don't know that they would. I think they would have tried to save Ash, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just would love to explore.
Who wouldn't try to save Ash?
Yeah, if Ash was the first one, I think they all would have tried to been like, no, we must save him. But if it was Scott, immediately
gone.
Scott's getting
like
got.
chopping him up in tiny little pieces.
It's his fault. It's his fault because he's the one who went down into the basement to be a little bitch boy. And then played that nasty trick on everyone where he hid in the dark room and wouldn't come up when they were calling him. That shit's fucked up. Don't do that. Don't do that. And then he gets all the shit out, the tape deck thing, whatever. And Cheryl's obviously having a conniption, rightfully so, and doesn't want to listen to it. And not only does he play it, but he speeds forward right directly to the part where they're speaking in Latin. Never play the Latin. Never play the Latin. Never read it aloud. When I were going through the book, I couldn't remember what happened, but they're going through, Ash was going through the pages of the book. And I was like, okay, well, there's no way he can read that. So how do they read this? And I was like, oh, there's a goddamn recording.
Yes.
Yeah. He's a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
I hate him.
Also, a dumb bitch, you might say.
Some would say.
I think it's a little premature to say that, but perhaps in an hour it won't be. In an hour. Oh my God. How long have we been recording? I don't know. I have no sense of time.
Not in an hour.
Not an hour. This is a 3-hour premiere. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's a 3-hour premiere. Wait, so this entire the entire time that we've been talking about like the Book of the Dead, which is like the whole thing, this like word has been coming to my mind, which is not the right word, and someone needs to call in and tell me what I'm thinking of. But the word Deuteronicon is coming to my head, but that's not it. But it's something Ironicon, and that's some other spooky book from something. And I was like, oh my God, I'm thinking of the spooky book thing from the Scooby-Doo movie. I just looked it up. No, that's the Damon-ritis. That's not it. So I have no idea what the fuck I'm thinking of. It's driving me insane.
You're thinking of the Necronomicon, also referred to as the Book of the Dead.
Is that from Hocus Pocus?
Yeah, no, it's from this movie.
I don't know if they
Do
say
call it
I
that?
believe you, but it is it appears in stories by the horror writer H.P. Lovecraft.
Am I thinking of the second movie? Is that what's happening? Because the second movie has a lot more of the lore in it, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I think so. Hold on.
Okay, all right. Well, spoiler. That's what the book gets
Yeah,
called.
the
Maybe.
Necromonicon, the Necronomicon Ex Mortis is what the Book of the Dead is
Love
called.
that. Also, I read that they were gonna call the movie The Book of the Dead, and I'm really glad they didn't.
Okay, apparently they were gonna call it the Book of the Dead, and then they were like, no, we're trying to attract a movie audience. We don't want book audience. They don't go to movies. If we call it the Book of the Dead, then nobody's gonna come because they're gonna think this movie is for nerds.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was like, we want the youth to come watch this, even though it's NC-17. And so the youth, if they think that there's a literary reference in the title, they'll hate it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Giving them absolutely no credit. Giving the youth of America no credit.
I will say though, The Evil Dead is a better title.
Way better.
Although they called it
Leaps
like
and
the
bounds.
least worst when they came up with it. They were just like, of our options, this is the one we hate the least. But I do think it slaps. You know what I mean? I think it's one of those things maybe though, where it's like, when you first come up with it, maybe it would sound a little basic or like but it's so normal to hear because we've heard it for so long that it just like sounds cool and you just think of exactly what it is. Whereas it's one of those things where if you like break it down and think about it, like the word dishwasher too much, you know what I mean? You don't think about it, but it literally is like the washer of dishes,
And then it starts
you know?
to lose its meaning. Yeah.
It's literally like, oh, they're dead and they're evil. But if you don't do that, and if you just go The Evil Dead, it absolutely slaps as a title.
Well, what they could have done the title that they came up with for the Pitch movie that they made. They made a 30-minute Super 8 movie to try to get investors. And that one was called Within the Woods, which is a spooky, fun name. But also, when I think of Within the Woods, I think of something that's a bit more serious than Evil Dead. And I think Evil Dead kind of informs you a little bit that's going to be a little kooky.
Yeah.
So you're at least expecting that a little bit. Because if you go in thinking this is going to be a serious movie, you might get pissed.
Within the Woods sounds a little bit like a prestige drama. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Where it's like
Starring Timothy Chalamet.
a retired author is working on his next project. He doesn't know what to do, so he sequesters himself in the woods, and then spooky things start happening to him. And it's played by Timothy Chalamet is the son, you know what I mean? And the author is Ethan Hawke, and he's got his little glasses. Actually, it's Sinister in the Woods.
Yeah, it's Sinister in the Woods. Wow. Sounds like a great movie. I'd watch it.
That.
Timothy Chalamet could absolutely play the son who unfolds himself from a box.
He seems limber, yeah. So before we get too deep into the movie itself, we have to talk about one of the least good parts of it. When I watched this movie last night, I was trying to just chill. It had been a long day, and I was like, this movie's funny and spooky. It's great. And then like the third thing that happens is what happens to Cheryl. And I was like, did I end a terrible movie? Is the whole movie like this? Because in true Monica fashion, I deleted that part from my mind, and I think it was a protective measure this time instead of my normal bullshit. But yes, Cheryl does have a horrible experience where the trees come alive, and it's the worst thing ever. And I just wish that they hadn't done that part, because it's like the rest of the movie, they could have established that the trees were alive and they'll mess you up in a different way. You know, there are other ways they could have done that, I think.
It really didn't need to be that. You know what I mean? It would, okay. When we talked about this kind of similar thing in Alien, at least it made sense plot wise what it would have been in Alien. You know what I mean? At least to some degree, like it was literally like the impregnation symbolically, metaphorically, or whatever with the face hugger, and whatever it was going to be with Ripley at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no reason for it to be that in this movie. But like you said, you wished it wasn't here. Apparently, Sam Raimi also wishes it wasn't here, which is something, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was 20 when he wrote it and put it all together. So like, not great. But 20 is at least
couldn't even drink yet.
Yeah. I don't.
But still, it just wasn't necessary. But he has a quote where he says it was unnecessarily gratuitous and a little too brutal.
Just a little too brutal.
A little. And he said, my goal was not to offend people. My judgment was a little wrong at that time. He keeps saying a little, and I don't think that he's like going far enough. But, you know, the rest of the movie is an absolute joy.
The thing is, though, with that scene.
Enough so you forget.
Yeah, the thing is with that scene, I watched it, and obviously I understood what was happening in the sense that, like, the trees are ripping off her clothes. They're holding her down. It literally like exposes her breast that she's trying to cover. It's, you know, you've seen it. But then afterwards I saw that she was wearing undies and I was like, oh, I'm going to just imagine that, you know, she has undies on. So whatever I thought was happening couldn't have actually made it to that point. I went back and rewatched it. No, they made it pretty clear. They really did not leave any room for interpretation. There is apparently, and I don't remember this, so let me know if you guys remember this, but IMDb said there's a scene at the end that they thought would maybe try to sort of balance it out where like Linda attacks Ash similarly. I don't know what specifically they were talking about, but I only watched it one time, so maybe I just like missed that moment.
I remember.
Okay.
I accidentally rewatched it this morning when I was trying to grab our closing quote, and I could not find it.
Just got sucked all the way in. Yeah.
So I watched this part instead. I almost lost my mind. But yeah, so basically he brings Linda's body outside to bury her, and something happens where she comes alive and becomes a deadite again, and she like jumps onto him and is kind of like straddling him a little bit. And in that kerfuffle is when she loses her head, and then her head like ejaculates blood all over his face a lot of the time.
Yeah,
no, very ejaculatory.
Okay, I will say about that scene, I did really like when he gave her, and I will be calling it a monocle and you can't stop me, when he gave her the monocle in the beginning of the movie and they did their like funny little like peeking at each other scene. I liked that they brought that back. I loved that came back around. And I also love
super funny.
Yeah, something this movie did do that I thought was really great was every time that I was like, oh man, why aren't they doing this? I wish they would do this. Like a few minutes later, they were like, oh, is that what you wanted? Here you go. Because when he was
let me cater to you.
Right. When he was fighting her in that scene, I kept being like, use the sharp side of the shovel. Like, what are you doing? You've got this right here. You need to dismember. Weren't you listening? And then seconds later, he like grabs the shovel and goes for it. And I was like, finally, he got there. You know what I mean? But he was panicking in the moment. He needed a sec. And like, I get it, Ash. Like, you are having an emotional journey, first of all, because that's Linda, your girlfriend. And also she keeps being like, I'm Linda, your girlfriend. You know what I mean? So it's a lot.
And his sister just died.
Although
his best friend.
Let's not pretend that he engaged with Cheryl, like, at all.
Well, okay, no, but he did. When she was like, I need to go right now, he was like, I'll take you to town. Like, he barely hesitated. He did.
Yeah, he did.
He did. She was like, are you going to take me to town or not? And then finally he was like, okay, let's go.
Okay, yeah. I mean, not every, like, it was a wild situation in the middle of the night, but also gotta listen to her. Listen to the woman. When Sydney tells you that there's ghosts in the house, there's ghosts in the house, okay?
Right.
But he did seem like caring to her in that time, but not caring enough for me to be like, brother, sister. No, not at all like that. But I did like the like kind of the only character development that we really get in this film at all is Ash, because he's nice the whole time, more nice than Scott. But like at one point, I can't remember who's coming at him. It might be Cheryl or it might be Shelley. And he just completely, it's Shelley. He completely freezes up. He has like the gun and he like can't do anything. He can't point it. He can't do anything. He's like completely frozen. And Scott has to grab, it's the axe. Scott has to grab the axe and then dismember Shelley. And so he like goes from being like completely like shot under pressure, like frozen under pressure, to being like badass motherfucker who takes care of business, chops everybody up.
Launches Linda with his feet, acro yoga style.
Acro yoga style. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when like after Scott chops up Shelley, right? And she's laying on the floor, like still twitching and all this kind of stuff in like multiple little pieces. But she still looks like the demon, right? But when we see Linda and Ash is trying, like he's like strapped her down to a table and all this kind of stuff, like, and he's going to like chainsaw her, she looks like Linda and not the demon. So say like a random person at this point, like just like the police immediately just showed up, like happened out of the blue, would it look like Shelley is still in like demon form, or like how do you think like that would have played out? Like,
here's my argument.
I'm not sure. Oh, you go first and then I'll say mine.
I think we established already that Ghombie Linda was playing games. You know what I mean? That's a strategic move on her part. So I would argue that Shelley is full dead. You know what I mean? And can't play any more moves. There are no more moves to make once you've been dismembered. So I think she would stay looking like a Ghombie.
But doesn't she like come back at the end? No? Am I just like...
It's kind of hard to tell which Gombie's which Deadite is which at the end.
Right.
But
I was like, doesn't she like kind of reanimate?
I think it was Cheryl.
I think it was Cheryl because Cheryl's still in one piece. But I will say this. I think some of these logical fallacies that we are encountering now, like why did Linda become a lady again and Shelley did not? I think it might be one of the fake Shemp's issues. Because during the filming of this movie, I don't know. Okay, I had no idea about this. So I went on the IMDb, and if you go onto the IMDb just normal page for The Evil Dead, you scroll to the top cast, you open up the whole cast, and you see the 5 people who are in it, and then you see Philip A. Gillis as fake Shemp, Dorothy Tappert, fake Shemp, Cheryl, fake Shemp, Barbara, fake Shemp. I was like, what the fuck is a fake Shemp?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the hell is this? And what it was is that the main actors besides Ash had to leave at some point during the filming. So they just had other people in the zombie outfits, in the zombie makeup, and they were the ones being the zombies for the whole rest of the time. Because you can't tell because they're wearing so much makeup, which is brilliant. But maybe Shelley, the actress that played Shelley, Teresa Tilly, maybe she had to go. And maybe they got Linda for a little bit longer. Maybe they had Betsy Baker for a little bit longer. And so she was able to do a few more normal girl shots.
That could make sense.
That's the reason I like it.
I think it is truly wild that, and understandable considering that the actors who played the human characters, as soon as they were filming as the human characters, they were like, I'm out of here. You could not, first of all, you don't have the money to pay me anymore. But this is my assumption. This is not anything that they've said anywhere that I found online, although I just read the IMDb trivia. But I assume that they were like, you have no more money to pay me, and you could not pay me to spend one more day in this creaky cabin that you refurbished yourself that is so cold that the camera and all of the wiring froze and had to be defrosted by the fire. You could not pay me to spend one more day here. I'm out. The sound guy can play the zombie.
Listen, I wouldn't have been there in the first place with no plumbing. I need to be able to flush.
Did they just like make them pee in the woods? What'd they make them do? Sam Raimi,
probably
answer for your crimes.
I would have stayed. Anything for Bruce Campbell.
Anything for that unibrow.
Oh man, he really rocks it. It's great. And he's like hella ripped in Army of Darkness, so can't wait to watch that one.
But truly, just like the filming conditions are so insane. And Bruce Campbell, a liar, apparently, but in his autobiography, he described the film's production as, quote, a comedy of errors and, quote, 12 weeks of mirthless exercise in agony. And part of that agony is when the gombies had to wear their white contacts. Apparently, that was just like not contact material the way we have today. It was essentially just glass, and it took them 10 minutes to put in their eyes, and then they could only have it in there for 15 minutes before they had to pop them out so that their eyes could receive oxygen.
I also read that.
Horrible.
Yeah. I also read that Bruce Campbell like twisted his ankle while running through the woods, and Sam Raimi and the guy who plays Scott, I think, just like wanted to fuck with him. So they like poked him in the ankle a whole bunch of times to fuck with him. And so like sometimes he has a limp in the movie, and it's because they fucked with his ankle so much. I was like, poor Bruce. Like, it's a lot of shit to take from your best friend, who's also very soon going to be hitting you with a motorcycle for the ending of this film.
I love that we ended season 1 with a lot of like milky white blood.
Yeah.
Only to start season 2 with also milky white blood.
And they used real milk this time, so at least there's that.
Yum.
Well, it was cold when they were filming, so it wasn't.
That's something, I guess.
Sydney, were you like in rapture when the house started filling with blood? Like blood was pouring through, the blood in the fucking light bulb, out of the sockets, splashing on the projector.
There's so much blood in this movie, and one of the like weird trivia things was like Bruce Campbell's shirt was so saturated.
Oh my God.
And it was so cold that when he tried to put his shirt back on, it broke because the fake blood, like it was so like intense on his shirt. And I was like, they could have had more blood. Could have been more blood.
They couldn't have had more blood. They specifically used milk for ghombie blood so that they could try to avoid like even more censorship than they were already facing. They said, we have this movie is literally saturated in blood. We need to replace some of it with milk so that we can even release this film in theaters.
Seriously. And it already got like banned so many places. Like it was banned in the UK, all these places, because it was just so heinous. No one could handle it.
It was, what was it called in the UK? There was like a whole video nasty is what it was. I don't really know what this means. And I didn't finish reading the Wikipedia page because I decided I didn't care that much. But there's like a whole censorship debate in the UK about inappropriate videos, and they were called video nasties. And this was one of them.
Amazing. Oh, this is definitely.
This is absolutely a video nasty. I mean, fair enough.
Certainly a video
nasty. The end when they all start decaying into creamed corn.
Okay.
That is the greatest thing I have ever seen. I remember the first time I watched that, my brain like it lit up. It was like that meme where like the brain is not lit up, and then it gets more lit up, and then you hit euphoria and your brain is like blowing up. That was me watching that scene. It was incredible.
Scene is what I always like when you're a child and like adults tell you like this is your brain on drugs. Like that's what I thought like you would have done like when you did drugs. And who would have thought that partaking in those drugs makes this movie a better experience?
Yes, it does.
And it's plot
I've been
relevant in a way, because when they were originally listening to the Sumerian chanting recordings in the beginning of the movie, at that point, the characters were supposed to be smoking pot. The actors were in fact smoking pot to the degree that they ruined the entire take, being so unruly, just like Monica and I did that one episode we tried to record on Cinco de Mayo. They just
Sometimes
got
it's
so
just too
fucked
much.
up. Yeah, they were having too much fun is the problem.
But okay, the decomposing corpse scene though, it was stunning, and it went on for so long, and I was like, I
So
could watch a
long.
whole movie that's this.
And it's
It had
it's like
oatmeal.
stop
I love
animation.
claymation.
Is it stop animation or claymation?
Both.
Is it? Ugh.
Claymation is like a form of stop motion animation.
Stop
animation.
motion. Yeah.
I
Because
think.
oatmeal, snakes, guts made out of marshmallow strings, Madagascar cockroaches, which they
Spooky
acquired
hands
from Michigan State University.
bursting out of them.
Oh, the extra
Why?
hands, that was weird.
Oh.
I mean,
I
I
don't
loved
know,
it,
but it was
why?
cool. That was the extra demon inside of them.
Sure.
The devil was trying to get
Tearing
out.
its way out.
You know, the devil made him do it.
Mhm.
That was a Conjuring 3 reference. Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, okay, with the end, like I said earlier, did Mr. Academe try literally anything before he said, I must dismember my wife? I don't know, because he clearly didn't burn the Book of the Dead, or we wouldn't have this movie at all, for one. But also, like, you know, this is his discovery. Maybe he values science more than his wife, I guess. He is actually Ash from Alien. There's all these Alien references. And actually, I wouldn't be shocked if Sam Raimi hadn't seen Alien and taken some influence from it. You know what I mean? Because it did come first. But I really kept waiting for the monocle to be plot relevant. You know what I mean? Beyond just being like a trinket of their love. And the way it ended up being relevant is that he essentially used it 47 meters down style to hook onto the book and drag it closer to him. And that's how he was able to, it had sort of caught on fire in one of the corners, but it was burning slow and he could fully toss it into the flames. But originally, apparently, what they were going to do was use it as a magnifying glass to like catch the sun and burn the book, which is what I thought when I first saw it, that's how it was going to be used, because like what else are you going to do with a monocle? You know what I mean? Unless it's like there's actually, how funny would it have been if they were like, oh, there's very small fine print in this book that we can only read when we're looking at it through the monocle. That would have been wow. That would have been the horror movie for nerds, though. That would have been exactly the movie they were not trying to make. But have they considered it for Ash vs. Jason 47 meters down, day to you, underwater?
That's a question only you can answer because you're writing it.
Yeah. I'm just saying, nobody steal that idea. I know I said it on public record now, but it's mine and TM. You know what I mean? TM. Trademark.
Copyright, yeah, she said TM.
Yeah, I said TM.
2021. Spooky Tuesday limited. Okay, I feel like we're ready to get into our segments. What do we think?
Yeah?
Oh yeah. Okay, so how could it be gayer?
Cheryl's gay.
I feel like, yeah, for sure.
For sure.
I feel like Ash could be bi.
Oh, I'm on board with that. That could explain why he keeps Scotty around, because Scotty sucks.
Yeah, he's just like, he had that floopy hair. Floopy is not the word I was going for, but he had that floopy hair. Very cute. So who could blame Ash for that?
And he was wearing a lot of denim. Big bisexual vibes.
Oh, true. Yeah. You know, it just works. And then I also would just like to point out the beautiful metamorphosis that Ash undergoes throughout the film. We already talked about how he went from scaredy cat to bad bitch, but also like his hair did that too. His hair was pretty lame in the beginning, and then it got, as he got more and more distressed, it got bigger, and the humidity, I don't know, whatever it was, it worked for him. The blood, your hair looks sexy pushed back with blood in it. Like that's the kind of
Yeah,
vibe.
it does.
Yeah.
Everybody looks sexy covered in fake blood. Everybody.
She's been saying.
Every single person.
Yeah. It's a tenet of the show. It's a tenet of Sydney. But yeah, I mean, I didn't get any gay vibes from Linda or Shelley, unfortunately. But I also didn't get to know them very well. They did like cards, and that's nice. But I don't know what that says about them.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, being that excited about that gift and then kissing so passionately, you know what I mean? It felt like she's just a woman in love, you know? She's a woman in love.
She's a woman in love. She's a woman in love.
That doesn't mean she's
It's
not
a
bisexual, but
man.
I didn't pick up on the energy.
Here's a woman in love with a bisexual man. So she's got bi husband energy.
Yeah.
But also, you do know that Linda and Shelley have drunkenly made out. Oh, yeah.
Maybe. Okay, wait. Think about this.
They're still both very
Shelley,
straight, but they've definitely made out at a bar.
I would believe that because Shelley is so willing to make Linda feel good about herself. Because Linda's like, it's the 8 of spades or whatever. And it's not. That is not the card at all. And Shelley's like, yeah, babe, you got it. Good job, girl. And then Linda immediately goes, babe, look, I got it, Ash. I guessed the right card. And Shelley's heart breaks. So maybe Shelley.
Making points for Shelley now,
Linda.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Linda's straight as they come. Shelley.
And you know, Scott would be like, this is so hot.
Right? So maybe she's
Exactly
doing
like
it
that.
to be like one of those like, oh yeah, I'm going to make out with you because like my boyfriend will think it's hot, but really she wants it.
That's her excuse.
Yeah, she did it because she thought it would make her boyfriend think it was hot. But then she was like, I liked it.
So Shelley is
The first time was for
disgusting
Scott.
lesbian.
Every time after that was for herself.
That's for Shelley. Wow. I wish this had been in the sequel, but they're not in the sequel. Okay, Matthew Lillard. We established that he was alive in 1979 for Alien, so he is certainly alive in 1981 for The Evil Dead. But there's no room for children in this film. So we would have to time travel him.
Okay.
No, don't put a child. There's too many bad things.
No. This is a piece of trivia, and I would not replace them necessarily, but I'm just saying here is one place. Okay, so on the demon tape, the chanting, apparently they say something that sounds like Sam and Rob Dossie's hikers dandy roads or whatever. And Latin-esque. I was trying to make it sound not too much like how it's written, because apparently what it means, or what it was supposed to sound like as like a fun little Easter egg, was Sam and Rob are the hikers on the road. Sam and Rob being director Sam Raimi and producer Rob Tappert, who play the fishermen that like wave at the car as they go by. Matthew Lillard could have been a third man standing with them. Their 11-year-old son, perhaps their 2 gay dads, and then it's a little bit gayer there as well. And then Matthew Lillard is just their little 11-year-old son waving as the car drives by.
I could see him looking vacant and waving. Yeah, he would be great at that.
And then they would just have to change the Sumerian chanting to include him as well. But I think if you do like Sam and Rob and Matty Lily, Doss's Tigers, Dandy Roads, yeah, I think it would be great.
That sounded believable. Chelsea, can you be careful?
Oh, sorry,
I've
said it twice now.
Yeah.
You gotta chant
if
it though. I think that
fucking
means at least
awaken
3.
the Book of the Dead,
You know what I mean? I think you need at least 3.
you need to be careful.
I
girl.
won't do it again.
Do not bring that type of bullshit into
Sure.
this home. Okay, so I think that's like probably the only place for him, because I wouldn't change the rest of the cast for anything. I mean, he would have been a great Scott, but also then I would have to hate him so much.
He could be the off-screen evil that's flying over the ground. You know what I mean?
Ooh, the embodiment of
Evil itself.
the Deadites themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, evil itself. The Evil Dead. Yeah.
And that it like flies into ash at the end, and then just for a second it turns around and it's Maddie Lily waving at the camera.
He's just like, hey.
Yeah. Just like,
hi
just
friends.
a cute little Maddie Lily cameo.
Yeah, he'd look great. He'd do great at that. That's scans. I'm sold. So next is Dumb Bitch, and it's Scott.
Yeah. We basically already did this earlier on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but just to reiterate, we're like, oh, maybe we'll say it later. We're saying it now.
It's
He's
Scott.
the dumb bitch.
Truly
dumb
not
bitch.
a single question at hand.
Fuck him. It's over. And that brings us to our knives out of fives. So set the scene for us, Chelsea.
So this movie, it didn't win an Oscar like Alien did, but it did win the best low budget film at the Saturn Awards in 1983. And I don't know why it was 1983, unless the Saturn Awards are in some other country where it got a later release. I do not know. But regardless, it did win best low budget film. On IMDb, it has a 7.5 out of 10. And then on Rotten Tomatoes, it has 95% fresh from critics and 84% fresh from audiences. So a little bit you're running the still very good scores, but you're a little bit 95, 84, 7.5. You know what I mean? So you've got some variety in there. But as we know, this is like one of the defining films of the genre, and it is a film that influenced a bajillion other films. And it is maybe the reason we've got the Friday the 13th franchise. And it also gave us Cabin in the Woods and a billion other things. So I certainly think that those are all very distinguishing honors. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of knives out of fives, though, I would say I didn't really have any significant complaints. You know what I mean? Like there was nothing that I really didn't like other than the tree scene, which, as we've discussed, unnecessary. But that aside, and I can, for the most part, if I'm not watching carefully, pretend it didn't go as far as it did. And I get to decide, you know.
You're the master of your own destiny, girl.
Exactly. So I think for me, I'd give it a pretty good rating. I'd probably give it like a 4.75 knives out of 5. So like, I don't know that it was exactly perfect, you know what I mean? But it's definitely super good, and it's definitely worthy of a high rating.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I would give it like probably the same score, maybe even a 4.8, just because it's so much fun for me. And also because I said this on our Getting to Know You episode, but also this movie is the reason that I can watch scary movies by myself. One day I just came home from work in, I don't know, I think it was 2019. And I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna start watching all the scary movies that I don't have anyone to watch with because it's spooky season and fuck y'all. And so
And I moved.
Yeah, you fucking moved. That's exactly it. You moved. Adam was still working like out of state all the time. So I was like, what am I supposed to do on a weeknight? Like just sit there and twiddle my thumbs? No, I'm going to watch Evil Dead. And it scared the absolute shit out of me just because it was so gory and I wasn't used to watching scary movies as I am now, where like I looked at this and I was like, oh, more blood? I love that.
How
yeah,
charming.
How charming. But yeah, this movie holds a special place in my heart. And so yeah, 4.8888 maybe even for me. I love this one. And I've been very generous with my scores lately. And maybe that'll hopefully, I got to start being more persnickety in season 2, but not for this one. It's great. I loved it.
We started off season 2 with a banger, and I'm giving this bitch a 5 out of 5.
Ooh.
Because again, minus the tree scene, which this movie has everything that Sydney wants out of a movie.
You said that earlier, and then you said there was one thing it didn't have. What was the one thing?
Well, the tree scene.
Oh,
is the one
what you wanted was
thing
the
that
absence of the tree scene.
Yes.
Okay.
The absence of the tree scene. Like it wasn't necessary. I think she could have gotten, I still think she could have gotten, they could
attacked
have used
by the trees. Yeah.
And gotten attacked. But like
Scott got attacked by the trees and did not get penetrated. You know what I mean? As far as we know.
Really, It doesn't need to go that far.
I guess.
Oh
Right,
yeah, that's
like,
a good
maybe-
point though. We don't know what happened with Scott.
Maybe that's why
Maybe she could have
upset.
just like gotten a splinter or something and it could have been like really tragic, you know? But
They could have started to
this
like
movie-
drag. It could have been like tree vines dragging her into the earth. You know what I mean?
right, and she could have broken away there. But like this movie has everything that I love about like that classic, you know, 80s horror. It's cheesy and campy and just like batshit ridiculous and just
Batshit ridiculous.
it's so perfect. This movie is so good. I can't wait to like watch it with my children one day.
Oh, has a fair few titties for viewing with children, but we'll figure it out.
Hey, my children could be like 18 when we watch it together, you know? Like,
Say adult children.
Free the nipple, you know? So
yeah.
Oh no, agreed. They need to know what a woman's body looks like, but maybe not in the tree scene for the first time.
Sure. We could just cut that scene out, like that movie theater guy from Alien who just said, you know what, you guys don't need that. It might be super plot relevant, but honestly, you'll survive.
My bathrooms are more important than your film going experience.
And sometimes such is the case.
All right, well that wraps us up for The Evil Dead. And yeah, this was our season premiere. I hope you're enjoying yourself this spooky season. And we've got a stacked fucking set of movies for you for this month, okay? It's October, we're going hard. So who wants to introduce the next one?
It's
I'll do
Sydney.
It's Sydney.
We did a little nose goes.
Okay. So next week we are going to be talking about a movie that haunted our childhoods, or it haunted mine at least. I don't know when y'all watched it, but I think this movie came
no.
out in 2002, and it is The Ring.
Dude, I fucking forgot what movie we were doing next week. That's why I made someone else announce it. And that's why, because this movie fucked me up so bad. And I saw it as a full-fledged adult. So, yeah, this is going to be a fun one to watch
This
again.
movie fucked me up because I saw it like when it came out. And because I was queen of sneaking into movie theaters.
Queen of seeing that
Ooh,
PG-13 when she was but 12.
Yeah.
What a very on brand thing for you.
But this movie like truly fucked me up as a child, especially that opening scene.
Bro, I completely blacked out this entire movie, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I also don't know what you're talking about because while my friend
I'm
Brianna
scared.
maintains that I watched this movie with her and other people when we were doing like a weekend away, I'm pretty confident that I immediately fell asleep and saw absolutely none of it. And when I woke up, I'm pretty sure Jackass was playing on the TV. You know what I mean? So I think I missed it entirely, but also I remember the people that we were with making fun of it for like a year leading up to that experience. And so I do have some knowledge, and I also have seen Scary Movie 2. You know what I mean? So I've got some
very
base
important.
laid. But
You've
while
got some
Brianna
right
would tell you that I have seen this movie, I tragically think eyes closed, ears closed, no thoughts. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
unconscious.
I'll
even.
well, here's the thing. If I watch it and I'm like, oh, yeah, then I'll let you know. But I think,
You better. I mean, the only thing I can say is that by next week you will have watched it, and that's for sure.
threatening, ominous, spooky.
Spooky.
So join us next week for The Ring. Oh my god, in 7 days.
Aw, so fun.
I had a good time.
Good job, Bonnie.
If you like things, thank you. If you like things like that, you should rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or on on Podchaser because we're on there now. Follow us also on all of our social media at spooky_Tuesday for Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, at Spooky Tuesday Pod for Facebook and Tumblr. And we're on Letterboxd at Spooky Tuesday. Read our reviews. You're going to love it. You'll learn a lot. You won't, but you might like it. And that's it. That's our season premiere.
Yay!
Yay!
Bye.
Bye, spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Haidt, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Captain Tamara, and our podcast art is by Mary Murphy, who you can find on Instagram at the_moon_OMG.
Shut up!
We're gonna get you, not another peep. Time to go to sleep.